G'day, legends, and welcome to the Thursday Sesh by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight is Stephen. How are you, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm doing well, mate. It's just sort of enjoying a week of no football at the moment. So I don't know if it's might turn out to be a blessing in the long run that we will get put out of the League Cup early, give the players a chance to recover. But you'd obviously rather be in it, but it's nice to have a free midweek.
Yeah, it's strange. I thought, we come back from the international break and then off we go, and it's just, game weekend one on the midweek game that, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, hang on, we're not playing. How
Yeah.
how weird is this? So, and then you see the Huns playing yesterday and all that sort of stuff as well, and you're just like, oh, here we go. We'll get the extra recovery days, a bit of extra time on the training pitch. So, you know, could be a blessing in disguise, as you said.
Mhm.
So, what we'll do before we crack on into the show, just letting you all know, podcasts, the times are changing. That's the name for that is because we're about to go into daylight savings over here. So the times we go live on YouTube are going to change slightly over on the in the UK, Scotland, sort of, and Ireland time over in Europe. So keep an eye on them. Yeah, we go forward an hour. I know you guys have your daylight savings in soon over there as well. So eventually we're going to go from 9 hour difference to 11. So that's just a pre-warning for everyone, just to keep an eye on things. And yeah, we hope you all still tune in live on the YouTube channel when to watch the episodes. So we'll start off, Stephen. So new contract was agreed by Tony Ralston during the week. My opinion on that is I think it's a bit of a weird one because you look on social media and there's some people out there saying, "Oh, it's great that we signed up another one of our homegrown players and we need them for Europe, blah blah blah." And then others are saying he's not good enough, he's good enough, and then others are saying he's good enough for the league but not Europe. At the end of the day, I love seeing our own players come through and break into the first team. So I'm happy that Ralston's been rewarded with a 4-year extension. So I'm happy with that. I think he's a good enough player for us domestically. And then we've got AJ for Europe. So what's your thoughts on him signing his new contract?
Yeah, pretty much the same as yourself. I'm happy that one of our academy graduates is still coming through the club and still getting game time. Obviously, I do agree with people who say he's probably not up to the standard you'd be looking for a first team right back. But who are you going to? I guess the way the club are looking at it is who are you going to get that's going to be a stand-in right back, and he's not going to play really anytime Alistair Johnston's fit. So, I think they've probably looked at that, took a pragmatic view that probably Ralston's as good as they're going to get. Now, I'm pretty sure he's not on massive money, and I'm pretty sure he'll have been told by Brendan that he starts will probably be fairly limited, and he's obviously happy with that. But he has shown, certainly in a domestic sense, that he's capable of coming in and doing a job. So happy enough.
Yeah, like you said there, like who are you going to get that's better in terms of for the money we're spending and for the role? It's hard. It would be hard to recruit someone to come and say, "Oh, you're going to be our backup right back. You're only going to play maybe 1 in 3, 1 in 4 games," and and they're actually going to be happy to do that. And on top of that, as I was mentioned earlier, we've got the quotas for Europe where we were scraping the barrel to get the 8, either club trained or association trained players in our squad for Europe. So the fact of the matter is that you've got him there. He's happy to play that role as your backup. He doesn't upset the apple cart and he gets out there and does a job whenever he comes in and he ticks the quota for Europe. I think you can't really find a better option for that role. So I'm happy that he signed his new contract.
The only
Now,
thing might be if they come under pressure to sell Alistair Johnson, because he is really catching the eye. He looks as if he's tailor made for the English Premier League, and I do think he'll end up there at some point, as long as they don't see Ralston as his replacement, and they would sign another right back in that circumstance. But yeah, as you say, happy enough for them to be there as backup.
on that though, Stephen, you got to look at it and go, well, you'd hope we did what we did with Juranovic, where, we got Johnston in before we sold Juranovic and we've kept Ralston in the backup role to both of them. You'd hope that's what we do. But the old biscuit tin mentality that we've discussed numerous times on the podcast kind of gives me the fear that, people at the club think, oh, no, let's just keep Ralston and he's good enough for us. But like going up against Aberdeen or going up against, against like your Motherwells and your St Johnsons and that sort of stuff, I don't mind. If Ralston was to play against all them, I would not worry at all. But even going to Ibrox, I really wouldn't be too worried. But going away in Europe to Lazio or going away to Feyenoord or going away to PSG or Bayern Munich or something like that, I'd be a little nervy, let's be honest. So I'm going to bring up some comments here. So Peter Stevenson was, I don't know why we had to give Ralston this deal. He's actually gone backwards from over a year ago when he was playing very well. The board scammed us in this summer transfer window, Lorwell style, cheap, unambitious, cheapskates. JJ is saying Morning Troops agree about Ralston. He was a signing that made sense in every way. I don't get the hate from the section about this decision. And that's why I brought up both of those two comments there, because realistically, they both play off exactly what we're saying there. You've got some people view it one way, like Peter, others viewing another way, like JJ. At the end of the day, I think it makes sense. But I'm no board apologist. If they were to sell, Alistair Johnson and not replace him and promote Ralston to a starting role, then I'd be on this podcast absolutely blasting them, which we've done before. So it'd be interesting thing. So talking about contracts, there's rumours that contracts are being negotiated for both O'Reilly and Hatate. What's your thoughts on both of them, Stephen? For me, it's get them done.
Yeah, I think absolutely agree. Especially O'Reilly, from my point of view, I think O'Reilly's the guy who started the season really well. He's took his game up to another level. He's just about to probably be brought into the Danish the first senior national squad. So that's going to increase his value. When he starts playing for them, he'll start to catch the eye of teams not just in England but in Europe. And we would come under pressure to sell him. So get him tied down on a contract. And apart from anything else, he just protects our asset from bigger from clubs from the EPL coming in with big money for him. And I think he deserves whatever pay rise he gets. He deserves to be up amongst the sort of higher earners in the team, because that's where his contribution sits at the moment. And if we could get him tied down in a 4 or a 5 year deal and sort of guarantee that we're going to have him for another couple of years, and that would be a great bit of business. Probably one of the best bit of businesses we've done this summer. On Hatate, I think pretty much the same. You want to see him tied down. You don't want to see him leaving. I think he's got a lot of growth that he needs to get to his game. He needs to, he's got some faults in terms of losing the ball at key times, and I think he needs to work on that. And I think the best person to work with to iron out these flaws in his game would be Brendan Rodgers. So I hope he does sign a new contract as well, and I hope we've got him for another few years, because he's another one that will come under pressure to sell over the next couple of years.
Yep, 100%. I think, as you're saying there about Hatate, there's a fair bit of work there to be, ironed out in his game. And yeah, Rodgers is a great development coach on that front, so it'll be good for him to spend just a season or two more learning from him, getting developed and, progressing his game. As well as that'll protect our asset. But the thing that you said about O'Reilly as well is we turned down, what was it, a £10 million offer from Leeds for him. So at the end of the day, if he went to Leeds, he probably would have tripled, quadrupled his wages easy. So you've got to reward him. You've got to go, we appreciate you. You've been one of our best players this season. We rate you that highly that there's people talking in the comments on previous shows that he's a future captain at Celtic, the way he's talking and his leadership and everything this year that we're seeing. So get him his new contract, give him his pay rise, and, just let him get on with the job of keep developing and producing the goods for us. Like over at Feyenoord last week, I thought he was one of our better players. So shows we've got a real asset there. And as you're saying, is about to break into the Danish national team. And a lot of the top players in the Danish national team tend to either play in the EPL or over in the top flight of what's it called in Italy. So it'll be interesting to see what my colleagues at the company I'm working for, because they're a Danish company, think about O'Reilly. I should actually reach out and ask him once he breaks into the team. That'll be
And the thing about O'Reilly is he's already played in England, and he'll have already caught the eye of the scouts down there. I think he come through the academy at Fulham, and then moved on to play for AFC Wimbledon. So they'll be well aware of his qualities, and he'll be on their radar already. So I'm not surprised we got that bid from Leeds United, and you would expect more bids to come, probably Christmas and next summer.
Yeah, I missed half what you said there, Stephen. Sorry, the internet just dropped out on me for half a second. But
yeah, I noticed. You had gone all frozen there, so I just took up the baton and I was just stressing the point about how O'Reilly, having already played in England, I think he came through the academy at Fulham, and went on to play for AFC Wimbledon. So he'll be on the radar of English clubs and their scouting systems already.
Yep, 100%. So yeah, with the last thing I wanted to touch on as well with the contracts was the who do you think should be next to get a new contract? I think we've rattled off. Look at who we've extended this off season. So Maeda, Kyogo, Abada, McGregor, Ralston. I know I'm missing a few others. There's the talks of O'Reilly and Hatade. I think realistic for me, the next player who needs a contract extension would probably be Carter Vickers. Anyone that you're thinking it should be, or would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think only Carter Vickers comes to mind straight away. I think we've dished out quite a number of contract extensions. We've been handing them out like sweeties over the past few months. So that's obviously been a priority. But you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to hand out too many. You don't want to sort of give players long-term contracts when they haven't earned them yet. So you need to be careful. And I think maybe they're waiting to see how Carter Vickers comes back from his injury, because that was quite a bad one he took, and he's had quite a few months out. So I think the discussions on that would probably be on hold until he gets re-established in the first team. But even from his point of view, he might not want to sign a new contract. He might have an eye on getting back down to England either Christmas or next summer. And again, he's another one who's played in England already. So the scouting academy systems in England will be well aware of his qualities already.
Yeah, would have to agree on that. But I do think he's a big player for us, and he needs his contract looked at least. So yeah, it's going to be a interesting one there. But what I'll do is I'll throw to you, Stephen, because you mentioned about the refereeing in the Huns versus Livingston game, how bad it was, and I thought, we'll have a bit of a chat about that because before we crack on to talking about Motherwell. But before we do that, if you're tuning in later on in the pod, we want to answer a few of your questions. So if you've got any questions about players in the squad, what our thoughts are, or upcoming games, or anything like that, just let us know in the comments section some of your questions, and we'll get to them later on in the episode. So, I'll let you talk about the game there, Stephen, the Huns Livy game, and I'm going to try and fix my internet issue quickly. So, over to you.
Yeah. It was just basically, I think it was their first goal they scored, and it's been all over Twitter and the socials today showing it. And it was the boy Seema chased a ball through. The Livingston defender was favourite to get. The ball was going out for a throw in, and he's just put a hand up in his back and shoved him to the ground, totally blatantly. And then ran through and scored. And you could go a long way, and you'll never see a more blatant foul on a football field. Now, when I first saw it, I thought, well, I could only assume that VAR wasn't operating at the game, but apparently it was. And Nick Walsh was the VAR official. So God only knows what was going through their head and how they missed that. And it was a vital first goal. And it set the tone for the game. Now, they ended up winning fairly comfortably, so they probably would have won anyway. I also saw later on in the game a booking a Livingston player got for a supposed arm across the face, it was just a tangle of arms. The Rangers player went down holding his face, and the Livy player gets booked. So I'd be interested to see what our old pal David Martindale had to say about it after the game. I didn't catch any of his post-match comments, but I'm sure he probably wasn't as talkative about it as he would have been if it had happened in a Celtic game. So it was awful. It was really poor refereeing, and something we've come to expect when we're watching Rangers.
Yeah, I saw a stat somewhere as well saying that Livingston averaged 14 fouls against them per game so far this season, and they only had 5 against Rangers, or whatever it was. So yeah, here we go. I found the stat now. So Livingston averaged 14 fouls per game this season, 22 fouls versus Aberdeen, 17 versus St Mirren, 17 versus Celtic, 5 fouls versus Rangers. So yeah, and then this bloke was saying, my mates were joking that they believe the Lib players look like they'd been instructed not to tackle. So if you put that together, yeah, it's pretty crazy, all things considered. So yeah, the whole refereeing situation from the highlights I watched and what you've said there, Stephen, it's like makes you think. I said it a few times. The fix is in. Something's going on there, but nothing will get done because that's just Scottish football at the end of the day. So I'm not too concerned overall. It happens. We just have to not leave the games in the officials' hands and get out there and get the job done. So what we'll do now is we'll discuss the Motherwell game on the weekend. So apparently there's no TV coverage of the game against Motherwell that Sky is not covering it. It's a bit of a joke of a situation, Stephen. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's just farcical, isn't it? Because it's a top 6 clash. It's a top of the table team against the team sitting, I think, is it 4th or 5th or something? So it's a decent game. It's always a good game between Celtic and Motherwell at Motherwell, and for that not to be on the TV is just absolutely farcical. And for there to be no TV coverage of any game this weekend, you probably find that there wouldn't be a single league in Europe where none of their games is on the TV this weekend. There's no live coverage of it, and it just shows you how ridiculously poor our TV deal was. When you compare it to the deals that just recently been signed by the Dutch teams for the Eredivisie, it puts our TV deal to absolute shame, and the guys who've negotiated that and tied us in for a really long time as well to the deal should hang their heads in shame. We need some change in the leadership of Scottish football. We're underselling the game, and this is just a result of it, and it's just a joke.
100%. You're talking about not just the team in first, but you're talking about first versus fourth in your league not being shown on TV. That is ridiculous. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what much more to add. You've touched on it and said pretty much summed up everything I thought as well there, Steve. And it's just a shocking situation. It's trying to figure out the nicest way to say this here. So I think it's a bit of a shambles, really, that like you said, the TV deal is undersold. The lack of accountability where you're supposed to get, 40 something games a season shown, and the last couple of years they've struggled to even get that amount of games. You can jump onto different online things and you can watch more of the English Championship and League One games than you can get on free to air for Scottish football. It's just ridiculous. Like, I remember growing up, even over here in Australia, you had SBS and you'd show Premier League game of the week, Serie A game of the week, and then they would have European football. And it was a 2-hour show, and they would show you a highlights package of Scottish football, of French football, of German football, of Spanish football, whatever. They'd show you a little highlight package, and then they'd show you one full game. And that was a great way to actually get to see these teams and these games growing up. And now it's like, unless you've got Celtic TV over here in Australia, It's the only way we can really see it. And then you got people over back home that can't even watch it either. So I'll bring up a couple of comments here. So Michael Ross is saying Norway has a better TV deal. It's ridiculous. And Pegleg is saying, unfortunately, guys, there's no mass demand for the Scottish League, and that's why Sky's the only show in town. And then you've got things like Amazon with their streaming, and you've got stuff like you got Amazon, you've got Stan Sports over here that shows that there's a whole bunch of different streaming ones you could look at. If the TV channels aren't working, everyone nowadays has phones, an iPad, smart TVs, whatever. There's got to be a way that you'd almost look at it and go, let's just do what they do in Spain for a reason, or something where you can have the club TV and the clubs can sell their own rights. Or if you're not going to get it as a league, the only way to drive it is to take back the power from the league. Come on. That's me sounding all like, communist there. Liam would love it. Take back the power and everything. Like, something's got to be done, because the corrupt people in those corporate suits up at Hampden aren't doing their job properly.
Yeah, I'll just pick up on the comment there that said there was no demand for Scottish football, and that's true. There's no demand for it because we undersell it, and we don't get it out there. People will watch it. There's a lot of good games in Scotland. There's a lot of good competitive games out with Celtic and Rangers. There's a lot of exciting games. There's a lot of good football played, and if it's not any worse than any other of the sort of smaller leagues in Europe out with the top five. We're talking about the Norwegian League there, having a better TV deal. There's no way the Norwegian League's better than the Scottish League, especially when you get outside their top teams. So we need to stop underselling it, start leveraging things that are good about it. We've got traditionally big clubs. We've got decent support coming through the gates, considering the population of Scotland. And it's just a case of how it's marketed. Now, the English Premier League is the most popular league in the world. I'm not going to say the best league in the world, because I'm not sure if it is, but it's the most popular league in the world, and it's all down to marketing. They get it into people's houses and they get people interested in it. But we've never done anything to promote our game properly, especially overseas. I mean, how many times do you even hear anyone talking about Scottish football here in Australia? You just don't. So we need to change that. We need to start getting some people at the top of the game with vision, with an ambition to grow the game and go further, instead of just treading water, because at the moment it's just a joke.
I love something I touched on where Pegleg's saying at a death of Scottish game, how many people sign up for Livingston TV? What I meant by, like, if we've got to take it back, okay, sell them individually if you're not going to. But for those who aren't aware, in Australia, we used to have our games on Foxtel over here for the A-League, and that was the pay TV. So you got no real coverage on free to air. So it changed to Paramount Plus streaming for all the games. Absolute shocking system. There's no pause, there's no rewind, there's no games on demand to watch. Terrible system when it first came in. But there was also free to air games, like 2 free to air games. It started to improve it. Now, if you've got a streaming sort of thing like that, it would work, because the A-League is not a better league than Scotland. They're probably on the same level, maybe. Or Scotland would be a little bit better, I reckon, in my opinion. And where there's got to be another way. You can't just be going hat in the hand to where we're going, please, sir, I want more, give me whatever money you've got in your ashtray, which is what it seems like Scottish football's doing. How it works in Australia, the system's broken. It doesn't work nowadays. Like, there's got to be a new way. There's backlash on the streaming, but the J League has a streaming. There you go. J League and K League are packaged so well on YouTube that Andrew's put up here. There's got to be another way. I'm not necessarily saying it has to be individual clubs streaming it, or streaming is the future. Let's be honest. That's what everyone's doing. It's the present and it's also the future. There's more money in that. So we'll bring up some more comments. Michael Ross, Scottish football is being run by idiots. Andrew Galea, the old beIN Sports not showing our game. Yep, to be expected. Strange Love's got a nice one here. I normally don't like to label incompetence as malice, but it's the SFA and general management of Scottish football and call them as sabotage. And then JJ's plenty of expats worldwide would pay for the service if we had an independent setup. Helps if we expand the league as well. That's what I'm talking about. If you had a league-wide streaming thing, I'm sure, if you got the choice between paying, you got the illegal streams that everyone's getting on, or if you had something consistent where it was like an app where you could jump on and watch all the games and whatever in your own time zone, it'd work. I'm sure people do it. American guys would sign up for it. People all throughout Asia and down here in Oceania and stuff like that would do it. It would work. It's got to work. Would you sign up for it, Stephen, if there was something like that?
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a real option. I mean, if you can't get the deal you want from the big media companies, then you can. There's always the option to set up your own streaming system. We've been talking about SPL TV for years now, and it's never really got off the ground. And maybe it's time to start looking at that. And if you get the right people to run it, and the right people to produce it, and the right people selling it and marketing it, then I think it could be a winner. And it's certainly anything's got to be better than the current, complete farce with Sky treating it as just a sort of a joke, something to fill time when they've got a space in their schedule. They give no priority to Scottish football at all, and it should have been written into the agreement that they need to they must show a game every weekend. That should be the minimum standard. They have to show a game every weekend. There shouldn't be a blackout of the game at all. And us down here, if you don't have Celtic TV, you're scrambling around looking for an illegal stream to watch it on. It's just not good enough. And we're talking about bringing advertising money in. We're talking about improving standards. And that all costs money. And we're never going to achieve that until we get the product out there and get people watching it. And certainly having Sky not having a game on this weekend, that's not helping.
Exactly. And then you get the money coming, you set up this streaming, people sign up all over the world. Suddenly, advertising money goes up, clubs are getting more money off this, then they can invest in better things like their youth academies, bringing players through, better standard of players coming in. And next thing you know, Scottish teams in general might do something in Europe, and then the coefficient goes up, and then it's just, it's one hand feeding the other sort of thing. And there was a comment from JJ earlier on here that I skipped over. We're saying those running the game have helped to trash the league. We're a top 10 UEFA nation and should be acting like it. We should have ditched Sky moons ago and went independent. So you got that. Then you've got a comment here from Andrew saying it's so easy to follow the J League and K League compared to Scotland. Michael Ross is more people attend football in Scotland per head of population than any country in Europe. There must be. At the end of the day, the only two people in Scottish football that I would trust to actually get this done would be get me an Alan Burrows because he's outside of the Glasgow bubble. Get him and Anne Budge. Those are the two. Get them involved and they will set it up properly. They both are forward-thinking enough administrators that even though they're not at our club, I trust that those two would do the right thing. I don't trust anyone currently in a suit at Hampton. I don't trust anyone, involved at the SFA and the current providers. Those are the two people there that I think need to get involved and push this forward. They would actually make it happen, and I think it would be decent.
Look, I think you'll find there's plenty of people would be able to make this happen. I can't remember the guy's name now. We just appointed a new director at Celtic a couple of months ago, and the guy was some social media a social media director or something with Apple UK. So that sort of talent is out there, and he's Scottish and he's a Celtic fan. So that sort of talent's out there and available. And I'm sure there's plenty of guys like that in Scotland that we could recruit to get this thing off the ground. But the status quo is just simply not good enough. And the problem is, I think we're tied into this deal to something like 2030 now. So it's going to be difficult to get out of it if it's possible at all.
Let's be honest, Stephen. I get emails probably every week or fortnight from people asking me, do you want to take your show behind a paywall sort of thing, like Patreon, take it off YouTube and create your own app so people can watch in there and do all that? and then you can have a lot more interaction with your followers and all that. For this podcast, if I'm getting that sort of engagement as the founder of Celtic Down Under and setting this up to try and grow this channel, imagine what you could do, and the people out there that know how to do that at that level in Scottish football. As you said, someone who used to be at Apple UK or is at Apple UK, they would have the pathway and the know-how, and if they don't know how to do it, they'd know someone who knows how to do it. It's not, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure out that it's a possible thing. So yeah, it's just ridiculous. There you go. Martin's got a comment here. Sky defaulted on games last year, not showing enough, which we mentioned earlier. So fine him £100 million. I would love that. That would be the best. Mahesh is saying set up a streaming product independent of Sky. Exactly. So there's plenty of options there. Something's got to be done, and I would prefer to be paying for that than set up something and I'd pay for it. Then looking for a stream or Celtic TV is ridiculous. There you go. Strange of a doctor. Apple TV signed a $1 billion deal with the MLS last year. Perfect. There's a precedent. We're not going to get $1 billion, but it's got to be better than what are we getting out of Sky? Absolute peanuts. Yeah,
It's 30 million a season or something. It's something really, really ridiculously low.
I couldn't remember if it was 20 or 30. That's why I said peanuts, because pretty much is compared to what everyone else is getting. It's ridiculous. Like, you come last in the EPL, get relegated, and you earn how much? 3 times that amount?
Yeah.
Than our whole league's getting for the TV product. Says it all. So I think we'll leave that topic there. But yeah, it's something to keep an eye on and push for and everything. But we want to talk about Motherwell game coming up on the weekend. So what we want to do is I'm going to go through their current form, because there's a few little pointers there. So far this season, they've had a 1-1 draw against Dundee, 2-1 win against Hibs, 1-0 loss to St Mirren. They've had a 2-1 win against Killy. They've had a 1-0 win against Hearts and a 1-0 loss against St Mirren. So they've lost against St Mirren twice, once in the league, once in the League Cup. And then they lost to Rangers on the weekend 1-0. So realistically, looking at their team and all their results, they're not conceding many goals, but they're not scoring a lot either. And I look at this and go, I think from what we've seen, they're a team that's hard to break down. What are your thoughts on Motherwell so far this season, Stephen?
Yeah, I think they came out the traps pretty well in the first couple of games and looked as if they would be a force this year. The last few results have not been brilliant. They got beat 1-0 by Rangers at Ibrox last week, and apparently, I didn't see the game myself, but apparently Rangers were appalling. So that's an opportunity missed for them. And they also lost at home to St Mirren the week before. So the last few performances have not been great. So I wouldn't be too worried about their form. And yeah, you're right. They're not conceding a load of goals, but they haven't come up against us yet. They've only come up against. I mean, they were never going to concede a lot of goals to Rangers last week in the form they're in. If you look at some of the other teams who've played as well, the 1-0 win over Hearts at the time looked like a great result, but Hearts are struggling as well this year. There's talk their manager's going to get the sack. So they, I don't think their form's been crash hot, but yeah, you're right. They'll be difficult to break down. Just like any team we play are, because they're going to go out there and try and be well organised. They're going to try and keep the game at 0-0 for as long as possible and hope they can grab something. So I see it as being a very similar game to probably Livingston last week. And as ever, the first goal is absolutely crucial.
100%. Looking at it, they've had 3 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses, and their only 2 losses have been to St Mirren, who's in second, and Rangers, who are in third. So that pretty much says it perfectly there for them. Like, they're doing what you need to do, beat the teams below you. They've lost to the teams above them, and now they're playing us. So I think it's time to Handsome. Andrew Galea is saying Motherwell won't be easy, but the surface should suit us. It's always nice to play at Fir Park like that.
Brendan Rodgers mentioned that in his interview today. It's always a really good surface there, and he's looking forward to playing on it. And that's a key thing for us compared to the disgrace we had to play on last week. So it will be nice to play on a decent surface, and hopefully we can get the passing going and get our football played the way we want it to.
Yep. JJ saying hopefully we get an early goal. If not, could be a bit of a slog. They're fairly solid as long as we keep our momentum. Pegleg was saying Motherwell will come out and play against us. It should suit us better. Yeah, they do look to play. Look at their squad, and there's just like Liam Kelly in goals. You go through my favourite named player in the whole of Scottish football, Beavis McGarvey. What a name. And then you just keep going through. They've got Paul McGinn's there. Stephen O'Donnell's there. Butch will probably put his studs through someone's shin at some point. So they've got some players there, but no one there that just strikes fear into you. But it's going to be one of those games where I'm not too stressed about it. I think we'll pick up the 3 points, and it's going to be one where first goal, the sooner we score that, the better. Now, before we jump into our starting lineups and our score predictions, I did one of my favorite things, which is looking at the overall head-to-head between the two clubs. Yeah, the guys in the comments have figured it out. Beavers and Butthead. Brilliant. Gotta love it. So, over in the league, we have played a total of 72 matches in the top flight. How many do you think Motherwell have won, Stephen?
72?
Out of 76.
Maybe 76, sorry. I'd say maybe. Does this go back through their whole history?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe 20.
Nah, they've won
That's
6.
a complete guess.
They've won 6.
So they've only beat us 6 times in their entire history.
Yep, in the league.
Jeez, that's incredible, isn't it?
Sorry, no, actually, that's in the history. Yeah, Premiership, there's been 70 games. There's been 12 draws, and we've won 52 of them in the league. In the League Cup, 4 matches played, and we've beaten them all 4 times. In the Scottish Cup, we've beaten them both times there as well. We've played them. Well, this is while both teams have been top flight teams.
Yeah, I know we definitely lost we lost a cup tie to Motherwell during the Hampden year back in the mid-90s, because I remember it well. It was a replay, I'm pretty sure, and a guy called Colin O'Neill scored an absolute belter from about 25, 30 yards out, and he was from Northern Ireland. He was a proper 100% Hun as well, so that one really stung. And I remember being at the game. So we definitely lost a cup tie to them at one point.
Yep. Yeah, this is a weird one. So it's only head to head while we've both been top flight teams. So I don't know where they get the figures from. I'm just going off what I got here. But at Fir Park, here you go, 37 games we've played against them there. What do you think the lay of the land is there?
Well, if they've only been 6 times, the majority of them must have been at Fir Park, so it must have been maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 there, and then 2 wins at Celtic Park for them. 8 draws at Fir Park, 4 draws at Celtic Park, and then we've had 33 wins at Celtic Park and 25 wins at Fir Park. And the total goals for and against, we've scored 185 in those games, and they've scored 52. So, yeah, there's plenty of. It pretty much looks like the average goals that we score in a game against Motherwell is 3.11 goals. So there you go, Mahesh. You'll love the stats. So I came prepared for once. Yeah. So, who would you have as your starting lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only question is who does he play in central defence? Obviously, the goalkeeper I was listening to Axom earlier today, and they were discussing about whether we should play Seagrass or Bain, given the fact that Seagrass hasn't played in a long time, and he's basically sitting around doing nothing. But I don't think so. I think they'll go with Bain, and that gives me the fear, because he's always liable to come up with a mistake of some kind. Central defence, a lot comes down to the fitness of Nat Phillips. I think if he's fit at all, if he's ready to play, then he's got to go in there next to Liam Scales, because you want to get a full 90 minutes under his belt before we play Lazio. But if not, then he needs to probably play Iwata there, for the same reason, because that would be the pairing going into the Lazio game. But I really don't. I'm not a big fan of Iwata at centre half. I think any time he's played there, he's really struggled. And, I think that would be terrible for us going into the Lazio game. So I'm really hoping that Nat Phillips is fit and plays. Fullbacks kind of pick themselves, Taylor and AJ. He'll probably stick with the same starting midfield, with O'Reilly, McGregor and Hatate. I don't see any change there. And up front, I don't think we'll see Forrest again. I think we might see Palmer coming back in. It'll be either Palmer or Yang, but I think Palmer will get the nod, and Maeda and Kyogo up front.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with the majority of that. I don't think Seagrass will come in and start, but I actually would prefer him over Bain. He seems a little bit more composed with the ball at his feet and is a better shot stopper. But seeing him show racism, the red card thing in the team photo to Joe Hart the other day on the wind up was the funniest thing, and probably a reminder. Oh yeah, we do have another goalkeeper. Haven't seen him in a while, so yeah, that's what he looks like. So I'm like, cool. There we have it. So yeah, I'd rather Seagrass, but Bain will probably start. Let's be honest. Yeah, the back line's going to be interesting. The talk is I don't think Phillips is going to be fit for Lazio. That's what I heard. I'm not sure if there's anything more current that's come out on that. So I was going to talk about that in our next topic when we talk about the Lazio game a little bit, just a general overview before we dive into a few other things. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. I'd just for the sake of it, I would keep the back pairing that we had, like Scales and Lagerbielke together. It was a consistent run of clean sheets. Yeah, Taylor starts, AJ starts, midfield, yeah, keep it as is. And then, maybe if we felt like resting someone, then, give an hour to Kelmac, bringing him off, give Home a bit of a run because he's not going to play during the week. So, because he's suspended as well for the Lazio game. So, if you want to retain the midfield out, there's your guy to come in, just use your squad to your advantage in the league and in Europe. Up front, I'm hoping the same thing for Kyogo. Play 60 minutes, be 3 or 4 up, bring him off, play O for a chunk of it, and then hopefully we know Palmer and on one side, and we can see Hang on the other as well. Maeda, I'd start him, yeah, but I also would like to protect him a little bit for Europe during the middle of the week as well. So, yeah, it's going to be one where hopefully you use the squad to your advantage, can rotate some guys in and out. I still want to get the result, but let's be clever about it.
I'm keen to see a bit more of Paulo Bernardo. We haven't hardly seen a glimpse of him at all. So apart from 5 or 10 minutes here and there, now he's been there in training a few weeks now. He's had a few games with the Portuguese under-21 team too. So he should be able to play maybe a good solid half an hour. So if we are a couple of goals up, then I'd like to see him coming on, so we can get a good look at what he's really like on a good surface where you can play a bit of football. So I'm hoping we see Paulo Bernardo.
I absolutely forgot we had him, Stephen.
No wonder. I mean, he's hardly played. He came in at the back end of the transfer window and sort of snuck onto the substitute bench in the middle of the night, and then nobody's seen him since.
That's why I forgot, because he signed last minute of the window, and then we haven't signed him. I'm like, oh yeah, completely forgot. Nah, I think the plan would be, okay, if we can get a bunch of goals up and we can rotate a few players. I'd love to see Kelmack get a bit of an early breather. I'd love to see probably Matt O'Reilly come off. Then you can get Bernardo in, you can get Awada in, and give those guys some time or home in there and give them some time. So it's going to be. I'm hoping we get the business done. Like we'll go the Brendan style of old in the old in his first stint where, after half hour, 40 minutes, you're up 3-4 goals, and then you just go cruise control the game and, get guys rotating and run into players' legs, like, because we've got the 5 subs we can play with. I think that's how we'd want to you'd hope to do it, especially with the European game coming up in a few days. So, score prediction, Stephen. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think we'll get the job done. I'm going to go with 4-0. I think Kyogo will get on the score sheet again. I think Matt O'Reilly will too. So I'm going to take Kyogo to get 2, Matt O'Reilly 1, and then maybe a goal for Maeda as well. I think we're looking really good at the moment. I'm really happy with how things are progressing in a domestic context anyway. I think Brendan's now back and firing on all cylinders. The last 3 performances have really shown how good a coach he is and how good a tactician he is. Even the away game to Feyenoord, he got his tactics spot on. For the first 45 minutes, we more than matched them. He was excellent against Rangers, and then again, when we went down to 10 men against Livingston, he just comes into his own and showed how good a coach he is. And I think he'll have the side set up properly. He'll have watched Motherwell well, and there'll be no surprises for him. So I think we'll win the game fairly comfortably.
Yeah, speaking about Rodgers, I think he's starting to getting the hell of his getting the hang of his squad, like who's good in what roles and who's who in the team and everything, because he had to break it down and establish some of his patterns, and now that's starting to come out and his tactics now working a lot more and the players are getting used to it. Andrew Galea is saying Rodgers has stumbled onto a coherent system. Who would have thought Liam Scales would be a key player in that coming in the season, when the talk was if Nat Phillips comes in, doesn't get injured, he probably would have been sold. So
how good is Rodgers when we go down to 10 men though? He's absolutely brilliant. The wee black book comes out and he starts scribbling away, and that's it. You know what's coming next. You know we're going to win when that happens. And he's just so good at it. And I think Andrew's been a bit harsh there, saying he stumbled onto a coherent system. I think you've got to give him the credit that he's putting the team out. He's dictating the shape of the team and he's dictating the tactics. And one thing he has over Ange is that he will change tactics mid-game. He will change the shape of the team mid-game, and it makes us more agile to react to things that happen, like going down to 10 men. And I think that's the beauty of having a coach like Rodgers.
Yep. 100%. JJ's saying it's taken a while for some players like Maeda and Taylor, but they're in their groove now. We have so much to look forward to. Andrew's still like, we can be so much better, and it's early days and everything on that. I look at it and go, you said when we go down to 10, he makes movements. I look at it and just go, that's balls to the wall football. It's like, all right, we're already down a man. We're not expecting much here. Let's just go for it. And I love that. I love that about him. That he's ballsy. He's not afraid to have a crack at it and go after it. So my score prediction will be 4-1. I think there's going to be some dubious penalty call against us when we're up 1-0, and then we'll just blow them out again, and then we'll just cruise with the 3-goal margin. Strange Love is saying
that's a fairly safe bet. There'll be some dubious penalty call.
Scottish football. What do you expect?
Yeah, that's it.
Motherwell have been performing really well despite some of the results. They move the ball quick and work hard, and it's their home game, so it'll be a good football game. I'm looking forward to watching it somehow. We'll eventually figure it out. But we'll so we've got our score predictions. Everyone on the live chat, if you can send through any questions you have, like random questions about how the season's going, football. You can ask me what's behind the flag. I don't care, whatever. Any questions, just chuck them in there. We'll have a bit of a Q&A later on in the last 5 minutes or so of the pod. So what we want to do is we're going to talk about the Lazio game. So we've spoken about Holmes out suspended and Lagerbalk is out suspended. So, what's your thoughts on the game in general going into it, Stephen, for next week? We'll do a deep dive more on this on Monday's podcast on the
Yeah.
Pot Noodle, where we'll get really into it a bit more because the game's in a couple of the next day. But I just want to get your thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's approaching a must-win game for us if we've got any real ambitions of getting out the group. I know it's a long shot that we would finish second, but if we've got any ambition of doing that, then we need to beat them at home. They haven't started the season well. I think they've only won one game, and they've been conceding goals. So they're there for us to get at them, and we just need to produce a decent home European performance, the likes of which we haven't seen for a number of years. So I think Rodgers will set the team out well. And I think we've got to just go for it. We've got to just go for it and try and get the win, try and put pressure on them. If we get them, second guessing themselves, then if they have got issues in their dressing room, if things are not working out for them, then we might start to get them making mistakes. The atmosphere in the stadium should be buzzing. It's the first home Champions League game of the year. It'll be a full house. We're playing a bunch of fascists, so we always like to stuff the fascists. So everybody should be up for it. The atmosphere should be bouncing. So I'm looking forward to it. Caveating it, as always, with a record and a home record, especially in Europe, is absolutely appalling, and we need to start to do something about that. So hopefully it starts next week again giving them a doing at home.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it as well. There's a tweet that I wanted to do. There's this Twitter account, right? And a lot of people hate this post. This bloke and says one of the biggest bedwetters on there. Boys' views. Everyone knows what it is. So they had a question with Lagerbalk being suspended. You mentioned earlier it'll probably be Awada playing at centre back, right, alongside Scales. Boys' views question was thoughts on Alistair Johnson playing centre back with Ralston playing right back, or would you go with Awada at centre back? Now, you've mentioned Awada at centre back already. What do you think of the other option there of Alistair Johnson playing and putting Ralston in at right back, where I've said I'd rather not play him in Europe if possible?
Yeah, but that would be my reasoning as well. I don't really want to see Ralston playing right back in Europe. Domestically, yeah, he's fine, but not in Europe. So I think we can't afford to move Alistair Johnson out of that right back position. He's so important for us, especially if Greg Taylor on the other side is inverting, and Johnson's been staying out wide. So we really need him to have a strong game out there. There's really no ideal answer to the centre half conundrum. We're down to the bones, and who knows what we're going to do. But I think the least worst option for us is Iwata. And he brought Iwata on at centre half against Feyenoord for the tail end of the game to play at centre half when Lagerbielke gets sent off. So to me, that kind of shows you where his thinking is at. The next cab off the rank is Iwata. And that, by my reckoning, that's us down to our 8th choice centre half playing in a Champions League tie. So not ideal at all, but I don't think, I can see the reasoning. Alistair Johnson's a good defender in the truest sense of the word. He attacks headers well. He's very wholehearted and he's strong in a challenge and he's as tough as nails. But I wouldn't like this first game at centre half for us to be a Champions League tie. I would rather have tried it beforehand. And you never know, maybe they'll try something like that during the game against Motherwell on the weekend, and that will give us an idea of what they're thinking. But I think the sort of the obvious option is playing Iwata.
Yeah, but I have to agree with you. I think the best option is just go with Awada there. Of all of them, it's going to be tough for no matter who is there. But I was just thinking, if you play Awada as your centre back, it's going to be more the who was the guy who was a midfielder who played as a centre back at Barcelona when Messi and that was there coming through? Was it there's a ball playing centre back? It's going to be, was it Mascherano or something like that? I'm trying to figure out who it was. Someone playing that sort of role. is it going to be like play him as a centre back, but he's more going to be an extra attacker, and we're going to. I think the trick with Lazio will be let's not try to out defend them. Let's just go the old Real Madrid style / Ange ball and be like, let's score them. Let's outscore them. Like we know we got to win. Goals win your football games. At the end of the day, like if Awada's playing there's a chance we may concede goals because it's not his natural position. So let's just have a crack, and they're going to score 3, we got to score 4, and that's just about.
I mean, the only thing in our favour of Awata there is, Lazio and any other Italian team are not going to be the sort of team that are just going to shell balls into your box all night up to a big centre forward who's going to ragdoll the centre halves, and that's domestically that's when Awata's really struggled because he's not the tallest to be playing at centre half, but he's a footballer and he's sure he's composed and he can pass out from the back. And I think that'll be a quality that'll come in really handy if he plays against Lazio, not so much his sort of aerial or his physicality or his aerial ability. I think it will be his passing out from the back will be the key thing for us. And as you say, we just have to do the best we can with what we have because it is what it is.
I back our forwards over pretty much any team we play against in our Champions League group and our league at the moment. We've got a lot of goals in us. So I'm not worried about our ability to score goals. It's the other end. So if we've got to go out there and just attack, like JJ's saying this here as well. So it's like what Rodgers did against City in the Champions League, finished the best end-to-end stuff, exciting, finished 3-3, atmosphere was electric. Yeah, we just got to go out and just, balls to the wall, foot to the floor, and all those, sayings, and try to outscore them. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a doozy for us. I'm all for that. And then what we'll do is we'll quickly talk over the upcoming fixtures. So we've got, I think after this one, we go to 2 games a week pretty much for the. Hey, there's another break in there. So we've got Lazio and Killy next weekend. Then that's the 7th of October. Then there's no games until the 22nd.
We've got another international break in there when Scotland are going off to play Spain. So we will get a break after the Kilmarnock game before we go to Tynecastle on the 23rd of October.
And then it's just chaos the rest of the way after that. So it's Hearts on the 22nd, Atletico Madrid on the 25th, Hibs on the 28th. So 3 games in 6 days, basically. Then St Mirren on the 1st, then Ross County on the 4th, and then Atletico on the 7th. So it's a game every 3 or 4 days, pretty much, all the way through after that international break until January, when we play 2nd of January, we play St Mirren, and then we've got the winter break. So it's going to get exciting, not just to watch so many games, but also for the podcast where every Monday we'll be able to talk about the game on the weekend that's just been played and preview the next game during the middle of the week. And then the Thursday we'll be able to review the midweek game, talk about the games on the weekend, any other news coming up there. So it's going to be it's all going to be happening, and I'm looking forward to it. So what we'll do is we'll start to ask for some questions. So I think we've got one question here, and then we will do our final thoughts and wrap the pod up. So Andrew Glee will Rodgers try 2 up front and load up the midfield? What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility to do something similar to what he did last weekend with Maeda and Kyogo up front together. I wouldn't rule it out. He's always got some tactical adjustments up his sleeve, and as I mentioned before, I think he's an excellent coach and an excellent tactician. So you never know. I probably would say no if you asked me whether I thought he was going to do it or not. I think he'll start with the same way we've been playing with Kyogo up front on his own. But as the game progresses, you never know what sort of tactical changes he'll make, and I think that is something we will see at some point this season.
Yeah, it seems to work well for us as well. We've got the players who are interchangeable up front between Kyogo and Maeda, so they can play off each other, which we saw on the weekend. So we'll see it at some point, but I'm not sure if we'll see it, in any of the upcoming games. Now, Michael Ross has a question here saying, no TIFO on Tuesday. Thoughts on this, folks? Strange Love's pretty much answered it here, which was it's probably just as well as we were facing Nazio, so it's a guaranteed instant fine. So, yeah, I'd have to agree with that. For me,
It's disappointing, though.
it's
Very
disappointing.
disappointing. Yeah,
it's disappointing because, yeah, it is great to see that sort of makes part of a spectacle. But at the same time, a TIFO is not going to score goals for us. A TIFO is not going to make the players, not misplaced passes. It's not going to make Brendan make subs better or, use the right tactics. At the end of the day, it's disappointing because, yeah, it is a big part of the club and, the spectacle of it, but it's not going to change anything on the pitch. We've got another question here. Martin Weir, McCarthy not in the team photo. Thoughts? Who?
I mean, God only knows what's going on there. I've got no idea. Why wouldn't he even be, why would he wouldn't even ask him to bowl up, put a strip on and stand for a team photo? I've got no idea at all. I can only imagine he's so far out of the picture that they've just told him to go away, stay at home and just stay out of the way. They're paying him, so why not have him around? Even if he's, even if he's partaking in small-sided games at training, at least have him doing something, I don't get it.
Just make it funny. Have the team photo and then just have him do the Ashley Cole, like 3 meters to the side in the background, just stand there, like, just to make it funny. He, yeah, I think he'll probably be one that'll be loaned up the road or whatever. So, Pegleg had a response to that. He got injured on the way in. And yeah, so what we'll do is we'll wrap the podcast up there. Thanks for the questions and everything. We'll be back on Monday with the pot noodle. Don't know what the time will be for it because of the time zones. It'll be up. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube. You hit the notification bell so you'll get notified when we go live. Like the episode, comment on it, share it all around. And we appreciate each and every one of you. We'll go our final thoughts. So, Stephen, over to you for yours.
Yeah, so we're just about to start our step challenge. The 1st of October is on Sunday. So I'm getting in shape. I'm limbering up. I've been stretching. And hopefully the old hamstrings will last out to the end of October and I won't end up making a little trip to the ER.
Yeah, well, I think we're all looking forward to it. I think it's going to be it's a good challenge. It's a good cause. So yeah, it'll be great to get involved in the One Step Forward fundraiser for the Black Dog Institute. My final thought is it's a long weekend for me. It's a long weekend for you, Stephen, on Monday, isn't it?
Yep.
It's Sports Central in Australia at the moment. You've got the AFL Grand Final on Saturday. Collingwood, which is basically the equivalent of the Huns in the AFL, versus Brisbane Lions, which is a team that was founded down here, merged and everything. It's going to be a great game. And then you got the NRL Grand Final, Penrith against the Broncos. So that'll be interesting as well. So I'm hoping for a Brisbane double. So good luck to everyone if your team's involved. I hope Collingwood and Penrith absolutely, fall on their ass. And yeah, it's going to be great to get on the beers and watch a bunch of sport. And on Saturday, fit in a Celtic game as well. Happy days. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. Hail, hail, and we'll speak to you next week.
Hail, hail.